Social impact bonds. So, Bob, we know that New York City is the first city in the U.S. It's basically doing a very big experiment. Goldman Sachs giving almost $10 million in social impact bonds. And it looks like this could be the beginning of a pretty cool civic business relationship.
Yeah, it's really a great new idea. It's only a couple of years old, and it's a way that you can take private dollars and invest them for public good in a way that makes sense to capitalists. So, you know, it's not philanthropy. It's
the right thing that New York City is perhaps the first place this is being tried.
Yeah, it's
Plenty
perfect.
of capitalists here.
It's perfect. And the way it works is you buy a bond, a Goldman Sachs will buy a bond. In this particular case, it's primarily about trying to cut down the recidivism rate in prisons. So the money is used in a very, very specific program that Goldman, as the bond investor, has vetted and said, yeah, that makes sense. We believe this will work. And they put the program in place. And after a few years, we check to see if the recidivism rate has gotten down to a certain level. So here, if it gets down to 10%, Goldman gets its money back. If it drops below 10%, Goldman makes a nice profit. But if it doesn't drop enough, then Goldman takes a haircut on the bonds.
All right, so that's a little bit of the structure. What is the benefit?
Well, the benefit, it's a very interesting thing, because, of course, the obvious thing to say is, well, you know, the benefit is the city gets $10 million. But really, I don't think that's the benefit here. I think the benefit is innovation. It's very, very difficult for governments to innovate. If you think about the government budgeting process, things have to be done way in advance, and there's no money for R&D. You know, in a city budget, governments aren't good at innovating. That's not what they're all about. The private sector is great at innovating. That is what it's about. And so putting these two things together is really great because, again, the bondholders, if they don't believe this program is going to work, they're not going to put the money in. At the same time, if it does work, the government realizes a very significant savings. This is the key point. You know, the government is going to pay back if the recidivism rate drops because they save a ton of money by not having all these prisoners. So sharing the upside of this thing back to Goldman makes perfect sense for everybody.
So makes sense for citizens, makes sense for the capitalists, makes sense for government, win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win, and it also makes sense for one other group that people aren't really talking about yet, which is think about the endowments and foundations out there who do have philanthropic purposes, but also have to jealously guard their capital so that they'll have enough money to keep going and keep giving to charity over time. What a great way for those kinds of organizations to invest in change, literally invest in change, and if the programs that they back work, they'll have even more money to put to work in the future. So it's really a fascinating idea, and it applies to healthcare and housing and all sorts of other projects.